The Judicial Service Commission will today begin interviewing candidates to fill open vacancies at superior courts across the country. The interviews are set down for a week and will take place with a new criteria for judges. Now, this new criteria is meant to prevent untested allegations being put to judges and comes as the JSC is under scrutiny over its questioning, as Govan Whittles reports.
The Judicial Service Commission will begin this week's round of interviews for vacancies in the judiciary by interviewing a candidate for the Supreme Court of Appeal President position. That's the position that was held by Justice Mandisa Maya, who has since been promoted to the position of Deputy Chief Justice. This week, the JSC will interview Betty Molamela. She's a justice in the Supreme Court of Appeal, someone who's risen through the ranks of the judiciary and served as the judge president in the Free State. But this week's interviews are also important as the Commission will ask questions under a different set of criteria. They're in a meeting right now to adopt that criteria and at least review the draft document that they had at the end of the interviews towards the end of last year. Let's talk about what's expected from this week's interviews with Mbegazeli Benjamin. He's a researcher at Judges Matter. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Benjamin. Just tell us what's important about this week's interviews and what we can expect.
Well, the big thing that we are expecting from the JSC this week, Govan, is the JSC finally adopting criteria. That's one of the points that the JSC has been criticized on, and so this week will be the day or the week that the JSC shows that it is listening to that criticism and responding with draft criteria. The other important aspect is one that you've alluded to earlier, which is that there are two positions available in judicial leadership where the candidates are women. As you know, currently there's only one woman permanently holding a position of judicial leadership in our judiciary, and so it would be important to see the JSC appointing women in those positions. And so those are some of the big issues that are coming up this week.
Why is the criteria important?
Well, the criteria really determines how these interviews happen. Firstly, it tells us what the JSC looks for when it interviews candidates to be judges. But secondly, it also guides the kind of questions that are asked of the candidates when they come before the JSC. You'll remember in the past, a big criticism of the JSC is that the interviews are really a free-for-all, where any kind of questions was asked. And so the criteria really focuses the minds of the commissioners and makes sure that they ask only the relevant issues.
Thank you so much, Mbegazeli Benjamin from Judges Matter there. And in many ways, the first interview of Justice Betty Molamela will set the tone of how these commissioners will ask questions during this week's round of interviews, which are expected to not only focus on the Supreme Court of Appeal, but a number of other courts, including the Competition Court here in South Africa. For Newzroom Afrika, in Channel 405, I'm Govan Whittles in Johannesburg.